Alright, the first thing that we're going to be doing in styling is you always want to start brushing everything out. You want everything to be nice and even. You're going to be working from the ends out. When you're first starting off, make sure you're using a wide tooth comb. Just take your time, don't get too frustrated with it. Sometimes it's going to take a while, especially for long wigs. Always start from the ends, you don't want to lose hair. The next thing that we're going to do is looking at our reference photo. We're going to start sectioning off different pieces. We want to make sure that we have everything that we're going to be cutting in its areas. You do this specifically so that you can get an overall idea of what you're going to be working with, and that you don't accidentally flip your style sections and end up cutting stuff too short in areas it shouldn't be. Make sure you always pull away everything that you're not going to be working with. In this case, that's Chuuya's long ponytail. So I love thinning shears. I got these on Amazon for like 10 bucks or something. I just work up and down so that we can get these a lot lighter. It's going to make it way easier for us to be styling it, especially in the anti-gravity manner that we usually want to. Makes it look a lot more natural. These are my tiny little shears that I use for everything to do with cutting wigs and sewing. I just love them. Make sure that you're working horizontally, cutting directly up into the hairs. It's going to make it look a lot more natural so you don't have straight edges. Now we're going to resection for here. Chuuya has a lot of hair that is pulled back on this side, and there's a weft line just above the ear. So I'm just going to pull back bits of hair to come forward for one of his little face curls. That way that it's not so obvious when I have this pushed back over my ear. Alright, and then we're going to start working again in sections, cutting just like before. You're going to cut upwards to get those nice normal looking ends. Remember that it's always easier if you cut a little bit longer rather than cutting too short, because you can always take off a little bit more rather than adding things. Takes a lot of effort, and there's still that obvious cut that was way too short. This wig head is actually my head, so that's why I can just cut it on here for bangs. These are once again the thinning scissors, so we're going to go back and we're going to do it in sections more. We're going to make sure that we really thin it out so that the cuts look normal. It's going to even out the cuts that we made earlier that we weren't really paying too much attention to other than specifically the length. Just keep working on it, because eventually it'll work. Just go up and down, up and down, up and down. Alright, so here I'm sectioning again to make sure that there's that little piece that's going to come from behind my ear. And it's supposed to curl up, so you just take it and keep going. Usually I will just cut before I do this, but I wanted to show that you can do something entirely just with thinning scissors. It takes a long time and kind of makes your hand tired, but it can happen. Here we're resectioning and figuring out, because he has this piece of hair that comes back and under. So we're just going through that and then pulling everything under. Layering is a super great friend for getting all these really kind of odd hairstyles that anime characters have. And it can also help you when you're trying to get more volume in things. So we're just going to resection, that way that when we go into styling more, that we get things looking exactly how we want them. Don't be afraid to keep reworking things over and over. The more often you move your hair around into like the better places, the more you'll see little things that are going to happen um, when you take the wig on and off. Because every time you put it on, it's going to be just a little bit different because of however you do your storage. I turn mine inside out and put them in a filing cabinet. So it's always just a little bit different when I pull it back out. And then we're going to go back in, and this is how you can use your thinning shears to do that more natural flyaway kind of cut. I just keep twisting and twisting, and then you work up and down. This is really it's gonna thin it out, make it look more natural. It just takes a while, and then you're gonna clean up a little bit. Make sure that you get all the little stragglers. There's gonna be a whole lot of hair that just there's single strands that are super long that you don't know how you missed, but you did. Or you pulled out a little bit of hair, and so it's a little long, so just go ahead and pull that out. And then we're adding a little bit of texture because Chuuya just has like a ton of curls. His hair is like really beautiful and textured on one side. And then we're just gonna work it back further because we want it to look more even. Like he didn't chop off one whole section of his hair and just dealt with it. He actually went to a salon. We're just making it look nice. I do the twisty thing so that I can make sure that I am not. My scissors tend to cut more on the inside than the outside, so twisting it around helps me get an even cut on both sides. And again, we're resectioning, and for this, we're about to go more into the final styling. So each section's going to get out of the way, and then I'm working back on that little piece that gets pulled down. Make sure for this, you're going to go ahead and hairspray that part because we're not going to touch it again. It needs to be in place so that everything else can work around that line. Alright, and then we're going to use more hairspray in that. And I'm going to start teasing it, so just back comb and keep going in. You really want to pull it up close to the roots and then just keep working. Hold your hand tight and use the fine tooth of the comb just to keep going. You're going to spray it again, and then you're going to let it dry. Make sure that it's fully dry before you start combing it out. I use a wide tooth for this part because you don't want to get it too pulled out and fine just yet. Now here we're using pins. I put pins in the face to help for face curl stylings. This really helps for figuring out how big sections need to be and putting them in kind of the basic place that they're going to be. You're going to want to pin a little bit higher than what you actually want it to look like. And that's just so when you style it that it'll fall down with its weight into the right place. Go ahead and use heat tools. You're going to use low heat and low blow if you're using a hair dryer like I'm doing right now. Because once you blow it, it's just going to go everywhere and it'll unset any curls that you already did. Make sure that you do not comb it out while it's still warm. So for this whole part, just leave it alone, even if it doesn't look quite like what you want it to and it's just this one big weird spike. don't bother it. And then just put it up on the support pins that you set in earlier. This is going to let it just chill out for a while. And then you're just going to keep working through section by section, getting those curls out. And if it doesn't look quite right, then we can just work on it again later. You'll see that later in the video I actually pin back some of these curls again with my pins to make sure that I get like a stronger hold. And we're just going to keep curling all the short parts. Make sure that everything that's needs to stay in a certain way is heated back. So we're using all of these pullback areas and we're just heating them in along with the curls. This is going to make it to where even when we let down all the pins, that it's naturally going to fall back. Here we're doing a bang lift. You just pull the bangs back and then start heating them. We're doing support pins again for his weird little nose curl bangs. Remember to pull them out and up a little farther than you would actually want it. Now we're going to brush out the back again because it's time to do braid waves. Make sure you spray hairspray to give it some grip before you start working with it, and always braid in the direction that you want your hair to go. So his goes over the shoulder and we're going to braid that way. Alright, and then we sprayed one more time and we're going to just set it in with heat once. Make sure you get everywhere because it's a really thick braid. You're going to want to heat it up pretty good. Got to be glued. Remember, spray far away from it. You don't want to get like a bunch of weird ugly beads. And then once it's completely dry and completely cool, go ahead and just walk away for the day, honestly. Then you're going to start combing it through. And I use the fine tooth comb just so that I can really make sure that I break up any of the stiffness that the hairspray gave us, because Got to Be Glued will give you a lot of stiffness, and which is what you want, but you don't want it to look like a helmet. And just work slowly. Make sure that you're very careful about any layering that you've done. You don't want to snag things and keep pulling it off. And then you're going to go back, you're going to do your final stuff. Make sure that anything that was accidentally blown by your fan into a place it shouldn't be and then hairsprayed, just clip it off. And then you're done. And if you're not satisfied after a while, you just keep going. Honestly, I come back time and time again. This wig was already partially styled when I started, but I didn't like it, so I worked on it more.